Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another Saltivation video. Thanks for joining us today. For those of you who follow us, we have kind of put out a top 10 state and local tax topic in our various media channels. And so we're just going to, I think, talk about a couple of them today, starting with what we're seeing from a Wayfair enforcement and uptick in state audits. So, Stace, if you want to take it away, we'll start with you.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Mayor. So a couple of states or locals that we've seen, at least recently for some of our clients, have, and I would say, been kind of doing a matching of Wayfair registrations to income tax filings. So I think we're seeing all sorts of different flavors of how this is coming out. But and maybe we've talked about this in the past, but I know California has been and they're typically kind of the example of what states will do. So they're usually the first to come out and do something, and then a lot of other states follow suit. So not a big surprise that California was like first on the curve, but their Wayfair enforcement rule went into place in April of 2019. So we saw a lot of taxpayers, a lot of our clients getting registered with the CDTFA, which is the division that handles sales tax for California. And then the FTB, which is the division that handles the income tax, started looking at those registrations and saying, hey, we see that you are registered for sales tax. Where is your income tax return? Now, incidentally, what's a little bit of a little fluke in their law, and whether it's intended or not, is that the income tax rules, so they have a factor presence rule in the state of California for income tax, and back in 2011, it started at $500,000, and it has since been indexed for inflation ever since then. And so their factor presence rule in 2019 is higher than $500,000. So the Wayfair rule is $500,000 as of 2019, but the income tax rule is not $500,000. It's bigger. It's greater than that. So we've had some situations where clients, sure, they've blown the income tax rule or the threshold, but there are situations that maybe taxpayers haven't. So that's just maybe an opening and or something for taxpayers to look at. The other thing that I've seen recently, another recent notice actually came from the city of Philadelphia, which has its own local income tax. And they also have not a Wayfair rule because it's not related to their sales tax, but they put in 2019 a economic nexus presence threshold for their income tax, for their business income and receipts tax. So they are actually doing some enforcement around that. So while that's not Wayfair per se, it is, a different flavor, an economic nexus presence that is actually $100,000 threshold for that tax. So it kind of looks like Wayfair. It's not Wayfair. But again, I think it's just another example of how some of these jurisdictions have taken those rules and applied them to their own types of taxes.
Yeah, kind of speaking to, what I've seen also, to echo what you said, like California, obviously a really big state, they're pretty aggressive. So like our e-commerce clients who do not have any kind of physical presence, this is all economic nexus, right? They exceed the sales threshold for sales tax. And they want to argue that there's no income or franchise tax nexus because we're not there, we're not physically present, we haven't registered with the Secretary of State. Why are we having to file income franchise taxes in California? Well, kind of to your point in terms of like that factor presence threshold, it's very hard to argue, well, once you exceed that, right, like it's not even looking at payroll, not looking at property, it's sheer sales information. I don't know. To me, it's just easier to advise the client to go ahead and just file, start your statute, pay the min fee, and just, start the statute, and you're at least filing. And as the periods close, you're protected. So I think maybe coming from that perspective as states are becoming more aggressive with the whole Wayfair enforcement. It's just good to be aware and take positions and go ahead and file so that you're protecting yourself.